Welcome back to my channel. Today we will learn about the issue that has sent shockwaves through the Forrester family and threatens to tear apart the legacy of Forrester Creations forever. In the luxurious CEO office where countless business decisions have shaped the fashion empire, attorney Carter Walton stands ready to read the latest last will and testament of Eric Forrester, the patriarch whose influence has defined generations of style and family drama. The key members of both the family and the company have gathered in this opulent space, each one believing they understand exactly how the future will unfold. Each one confident in their place within the Forrester dynasty that has become synonymous with American fashion excellence. Ridge Forrester sits with his wife Brooke by his side, his posture rigid with the tension of someone who has spent his entire life preparing for this moment. As Eric's eldest son and the creative genius behind many of Forrester Creations' most iconic designs, Ridge has always believed that leadership of the company would naturally fall to him. Steffi Forrester, representing the next generation of Forrester vision and ambition, maintains her composed exterior even as her hands grip the armrests of her chair. Donna Logan, Eric's devoted wife, sits with visible anxiety etched across her features, perhaps sensing that something unprecedented is about to unfold in this room where so many corporate battles have been waged and won. The atmosphere crackles with anticipation as Carter Walton opens the leather-bound folder containing Eric's final wishes. Every eye in the room fixes on the attorney as he begins to speak, his professional demeanor masking whatever personal feelings he might harbor about the contents he is about to reveal. The initial formalities pass with expected declarations of sound mind and proper legal procedures, lulling the assembled family members into a false sense of security. They expect the standard distribution of assets, the predictable passing of control from father to son, the continuation of traditions that have defined the Forrester empire since its inception decades ago. Then Carter reaches the critical section regarding Forrester Creations itself, and his pause before reading creates a moment of suspended reality in the elegant office. The words that follow shatter every assumption, every expectation, every carefully constructed vision of the future that Ridge and the others have nurtured. Eric Forrester, in a move that defies all conventional wisdom and family expectations, has secretly modified his will in ways that no one could have anticipated. The modifications were executed with complete discretion, without consultation or warning to those who believed themselves closest to the patriarch's confidence and trust. The horrifying truth emerges in Carter's measured legal language. Eric has transferred complete control of Forrester Creations to Thorne Forrester, his younger son who tragically passed away years earlier. But this is not some simple symbolic gesture or sentimental acknowledgement of a beloved child taken too soon. Eric has established an intricate trust fund structure that places all authority and ownership in the hands of Thorne's descendants. The mechanism is complex, legally bulletproof, and designed to ensure that the company Ridge has poured his heart and soul into building will never be under his direct control. The provisions of this shocking clause stipulate that all assets, all decision-making power, and all future direction of Forrester Creations will be managed exclusively through this trust established for Thorne's children and their descendants. Every other family member, regardless of their contributions to the company's success, regardless of their years of dedication and sacrifice, regardless of their creative genius or business acumen, finds themselves completely excluded from any meaningful ownership or control. Ridge Forrester, the man who has been the creative heartbeat of the company for decades, suddenly faces the reality that he has been disinherited in the most comprehensive and deliberate way possible. The implications cascade through Ridge's mind like dominoes falling in rapid succession. Every late night spent perfecting designs, every business crisis he navigated, every creative triumph he delivered, every family conflict he endured in service of Forrester Creations now seems meaningless in the face of his father's ultimate rejection. The betrayal cuts deeper than any business setback, deeper than any romantic disappointment, deeper than anything Ridge has experienced in his tumultuous life. This is his father, the man he has spent his entire existence trying to impress, trying to prove himself worthy to, trying to step out from the shadow of, declaring from beyond the grave that Ridge was never truly the heir he believed himself to be. Ridge's face transforms as the full weight of this revelation crashes over him. The carefully maintained composure of a seasoned executive crumbles, replaced by raw emotion that no amount of professional training or family dignity can contain. Anger contorts his features, mixing with profound hurt and a sense of abandonment that reaches back through decades of father-son dynamics. The feeling of being cast aside, of being deemed unworthy, of being replaced by the memory of a dead brother overwhelms every rational thought. In this moment, Ridge is not the sophisticated leader of a fashion empire but a wounded son who has just received the ultimate rejection from his father. Unable to maintain any semblance of control, unable to process the enormity of what he has just heard through anything resembling calm discussion, Ridge moves with sudden violence that shocks everyone in the room. He rises from his chair and before anyone can react or intervene, he strikes Eric Forrester across the face with a powerful slap that echoes through the luxurious office like a gunshot. The physical assault represents the complete breakdown of family bonds, the shattering of respect between father and son, the explosive release of emotions too powerful and too painful to be contained by civilized behavior or social convention. Eric staggers backward from the unexpected blow, his hand instinctively rising to cradle the side of his face that burns red from the impact of his son's palm. The physical pain is nothing compared to the emotional devastation of witnessing his carefully planned legacy reveal result in such violence and family destruction. In Eric's eyes flashes a mixture of shock, hurt, and perhaps recognition that his unconventional decision has unleashed consequences he may not have fully anticipated. The patriarch who believed he was securing his company's future through an unorthodox trust arrangement now faces the immediate reality of family warfare in its most primal and visceral form. Donna's scream pierces the air, a sound of pure shock and anguish that speaks to the horror of witnessing domestic violence erupt in what should have been a solemn legal proceeding. Her cry carries layers of meaning: shock at Ridge's action, pain at seeing her husband struck, fear about what other violence might follow, and devastation that the family she married into has descended to such depths of dysfunction. She moves toward Eric protectively, her maternal instincts and wifely devotion overriding any other considerations as she seeks to shield him from further assault. Brooke and Steffi sit frozen in their chairs, their faces reflecting the absolute horror of what they have just witnessed. For Brooke, who has navigated countless Forrester family crises over her decades of involvement with the clan, this moment represents a new low, a crossing of lines that cannot be uncrossed. She sees her husband transformed into someone capable of striking his elderly father, and the implications for their relationship and their family's future stretch out before her in terrifying possibilities. Steffi's worldview shatters as she watches her father, her role model, her standard for masculine behavior and family leadership, commit an act of violence that contradicts everything she thought she knew about him and their family values. The shocking assault represents more than just a momentary loss of control. It symbolizes the complete breakdown of the Forrester family structure, the destruction of trust between generations, and the transformation of business succession into blood warfare. In traditional families, the reading of a will might bring tears, disagreement, even arguments, but the Forresters have always operated at extremes. And this moment pushes those extremes to unprecedented levels. The physical violence serves as a punctuation mark on decades of family dysfunction, competitive relationships, and unresolved emotional conflicts that have simmered beneath the surface of their public success and glamorous lifestyle. As the immediate shock begins to fade slightly, Ridge's anger crystallizes into determination. The violence of the slap gives way to the cold calculation of legal warfare. He declares his intention to contest the will in court, his voice carrying the absolute conviction of someone who believes they have been fundamentally wronged by forces beyond their control. Ridge refuses to accept that his father could push him aside so cruelly, that Eric could orchestrate such a comprehensive rejection of his eldest son's contributions and sacrifice. The idea that these decisions have come from beyond the grave, that Eric will never have to face Ridge's arguments or defend his reasoning in person, adds another layer of frustration and fury to an already explosive situation. Ridge's vow to fight this will through every available legal channel transforms the family gathering into the opening salvo of what promises to be a protracted and bitter court battle. He swears he will challenge every aspect of the trust arrangement, will question Eric's mental competence when the modifications were made, will argue undue influence or manipulation by parties unknown, will deploy every legal strategy and financial resource at his disposal to overturn what he views as a grotesque miscarriage of justice. The determination in his eyes speaks to someone who has nothing left to lose. Someone whose identity and self-worth have been so thoroughly attacked that total warfare represents the only possible response. The question of why Eric made such an unconventional and devastating choice hangs heavy in the air, but no answer immediately presents itself. Was this some elaborate test of Ridge's character that has failed spectacularly? Was Eric influenced by advisors or family members who convinced him that Thorne's line deserved precedence? Did Eric harbor secret resentments or disappointments about Ridge's leadership that were never openly expressed? Was there some principled belief about merit versus birth order that drove this decision? The absence of Eric's own voice to explain his reasoning leaves everyone grasping for understanding while drowning in emotion. The legal implications of Ridge's intended challenge spread out like ripples in a pond, touching every aspect of Forrester Creations' operations and the family's interconnected lives. A will contest could freeze company operations, create uncertainty among employees and investors, damage the Forrester brand reputation, and consume enormous amounts of time and money in legal proceedings. The trust structure that Eric established will have its own legal defenders, probably equipped with extensive documentation of Eric's intentions and mental capacity. Ridge faces an uphill battle against his father's carefully planned legal fortress, but his wounded pride and sense of betrayal leave him no choice but to fight. Steffi must now navigate her divided loyalties between her father and her grandfather's final wishes, between protecting her own future role in the company and respecting legal structures that explicitly exclude her direct line from control. Brooke faces the prospect of watching her husband consume himself in legal warfare that could destroy what remains of family relationships and company stability. Donna must deal with the immediate aftermath of violence against her husband while processing the reality that Eric's final act as patriarch has ignited family civil war. Carter finds himself in the awkward position of having delivered news that sparked physical assault and promises of endless litigation. The episode concludes with Ridge's eyes blazing with righteous fury and absolute determination as he makes his declaration of total war against his father's final wishes. His statement that he will fight to the very end to reclaim what he believes rightfully belongs to him sets the stage for a legal and family battle that will consume the Forrester clan for months or years to come. The elegant CEO office that has witnessed so many corporate triumphs and family dramas now bears witness to the complete fracturing of the Forrester dynasty, with Ridge standing as a wounded warrior ready to burn down everything his father built rather than accept what he views as ultimate betrayal and rejection from beyond the grave. Next, we will learn about the explosive news that Douglas Forrester is making his highly anticipated return to Los Angeles for Hope Logan's wedding to Liam Spencer on The Bold and the Beautiful. And the burning question on everyone's mind is whether his father Thomas Forrester will be accompanying him back to the City of Angels. The announcement has sent shockwaves through The Bold and the Beautiful fan base, as Douglas Forrester prepares to journey back to Los Angeles from his current home in Paris for what promises to be one of the most emotionally charged weddings in recent soap opera history. Douglas, the cherished son of design mogul Thomas Forrester and the tragically departed Carolyn Spencer too, will be attending the nuptials of Hope Logan and Liam Spencer, two people who have been central figures in his young life. This homecoming represents far more than just a wedding attendance. It symbolizes the enduring bonds of family and the complicated web of relationships that have defined Douglas's childhood since his biological mother's untimely passing. For viewers who may have missed recent storylines or need context about Douglas's current situation, the young Forrester has been residing in the City of Light alongside his father Thomas and stepmother Paris Buckingham ever since Thomas made the difficult decision to relocate from Los Angeles in 2024. The departure marked a devastating turning point for Hope Logan, who had served as Douglas's legal guardian and primary maternal figure throughout the most formative years of his life following Carolyn Spencer II's heartbreaking death back in 2019. The loss of Carolyn left an irreplaceable void in Douglas's world, and Hope stepped into that maternal role with unwavering dedication, raising the boy as if he were her own flesh and blood despite the tumultuous history between herself and Thomas. The transition period when Douglas first moved to Paris proved to be particularly agonizing for Hope, as she watched the child she had nurtured begin referring to Paris Buckingham as Mom, a development that felt like a dagger through her heart. Hope had invested years of love, patience, and maternal devotion into Douglas, helping him navigate trauma, supporting his emotional development, and providing the stability that every child desperately needs. To hear him bestow that sacred title upon someone else represented not just a shift in Douglas's life, but felt like an erasure of everything Hope had sacrificed and given to raise him. The pain of that moment lingered long after Thomas and Douglas departed for European shores, leaving Hope to grapple with an emptiness that no amount of rationalization could fill. Yet now the tides have shifted dramatically in Hope's favor, as she stands on the precipice of achieving her own version of happily ever after with Liam Spencer, the man who has been the defining romantic relationship of her entire adult existence. Despite all the complications, betrayals, reconciliations, and heartbreaks that have characterized their relationship over the years, Hope and Liam have found their way back to each other once again. And Douglas, despite being thousands of miles away in a completely different country with a new life and a new mother figure, has made the conscious choice to return home for this momentous occasion, demonstrating that the bond between adoptive mother and son remains unbreakable regardless of geographic distance or changing family dynamics. The question that has set social media ablaze and dominated fan discussion forums is whether Douglas's return will be a solo journey or if Thomas Forrester himself will be making the trip back to Los Angeles alongside his son. Matthew Atkinson, the talented actor who portrays the complex and often controversial Thomas, has been conspicuously absent from viewers' screens ever since his character departed for France with Douglas in tow. His absence has left a palpable void in the show's dynamic, and dedicated fans have been relentlessly campaigning for his return, flooding social media with requests to bring back one of the show's most compelling and multifaceted characters. The potential timing of Thomas's return carries enormous dramatic weight and storytelling possibilities that the show's writers would be foolish to ignore. Consider the circumstances that precipitated Thomas's original departure from Los Angeles. Hope had rejected his marriage proposal in a moment that shattered his hopes for their future together. Douglas, witnessing his father's heartbreak and interpreting Hope's rejection through a child's lens, reached the painful conclusion that he and Thomas simply weren't enough for Hope to choose them over her complicated relationship with Liam. The rejection wasn't just romantic, it felt existential to both father and son. Steffy Forrester, always protective of her brother despite his past transgressions, encouraged Thomas to start fresh somewhere new, to build a life away from the constant reminders of what he couldn't have with Hope. Douglas made it abundantly clear that he wanted to accompany his father on this journey of reinvention, leading to their relocation to Paris, where Thomas could pursue new design opportunities while Douglas could experience life in one of the world's most beautiful cities. In the months since leaving Los Angeles, Thomas has apparently found romantic fulfillment with Paris Buckingham, the vivacious young woman who previously worked with the Forrester family and had her own complicated romantic history in LA. Their relationship blossomed in the romantic setting of Paris, and Paris has embraced her role as stepmother to Douglas with enthusiasm and genuine affection. But one has to wonder whether Thomas has truly moved on emotionally from Hope, or if he's simply been going through the motions of building a new life while his heart remains tethered to Los Angeles and the woman who rejected him. The prospect of witnessing Hope marry Liam, of watching her pledge eternal devotion to the man she chose over him, could potentially reopen old wounds and resurrect feelings that Thomas may have convinced himself were buried. The symbolism of Hope and Liam's wedding represents the culmination of one of daytime television's most enduring love triangles, a romantic saga that has captivated audiences through countless iterations of breakups, makeups, betrayals, and reconciliations. This isn't just another wedding, it's supposedly the definitive conclusion to Hope's romantic journey. The fairy tale ending where she finally commits fully to Liam without reservation or the specter of Steffy Forrester hovering over their union. For Hope, this marriage represents stability, family, and the fulfillment of the dreams she's harbored since she first fell for Liam Spencer all those years ago. The fact that Douglas has chosen to be present for this pivotal moment speaks volumes about the profound connection between them. Douglas's decision to attend Hope's wedding despite the pain of their separation demonstrates remarkable emotional maturity for someone his age. After everything that transpired, the custody battles, the manipulation, the departure to Paris, the establishment of a new maternal bond with Paris, Douglas could have easily chosen to distance himself from Hope and focus entirely on his new European life. Instead, he's making the journey back to Los Angeles to support the woman who raised him, loved him unconditionally, and fought for him even when doing so meant enduring heartbreak and loss. This choice reveals that Douglas hasn't forgotten the years Hope spent being his mother in every meaningful sense, the countless bedtime stories, the help with homework, the comfort during nightmares, and the unwavering presence through every childhood milestone. Whether Thomas Forrester ultimately appears alongside Douglas at the wedding or remains in Paris with his new life remains to be seen. But Douglas's presence alone will transform this celebration into something far more emotionally complex than a simple romantic union. His return forces everyone involved to confront the intricate family dynamics that have shaped their lives. Hope must face the child she lost to Thomas and Paris. Liam must acknowledge the boy who represents Hope's connection to his longtime rival. And if Thomas does appear, he must watch the woman he loved marry someone else while maintaining dignity and composure for his son's sake. The fundamental truth that emerges from this entire situation transcends biology, legal guardianship, and traditional definitions of motherhood. Douglas's willingness to travel thousands of miles to stand beside Hope on her wedding day proves definitively that family bonds aren't determined solely by DNA or official adoption papers. Hope became Douglas's mother through action, devotion, and love through the daily grind of parenting, the sacrifice of her own desires, and the fierce protection she offered him even when his biological father's schemes threatened to destroy everything. She chose to love this child when she didn't have to, and that choice created an unbreakable connection that distance and new family configurations cannot sever. Watching Douglas stand beside Hope as she marries Liam will undoubtedly trigger a tidal wave of emotions for longtime Bold and the beautiful viewers who have followed this family's journey through all its complications and heartbreaks. The image of this young man supporting his adoptive mother despite the pain of their separation will serve as a powerful reminder that the most meaningful family relationships are those we choose and nurture rather than those assigned to us by circumstance of birth. Hope has always been Douglas's true mother in every way that genuinely matters, and his presence at her wedding confirms that some bonds transcend geography, legal arrangements, and the passage of time itself.